This is what millions of people were typing before Miguel Oyarzabal had even finished his celebration run. Was that a penalty? Was that really a penalty in a World Cup semifinal? A Spanish winger sprinting from Digne's blindside, no ball at his feet, running into a clearance already in motion, and the referee from El Salvador pointing immediately to the spot without a moment of hesitation, without consulting VAR, without giving the technology that exists precisely for these situations the chance to do the one thing it was built to do. That's what was already trending. That's what was already filling every broadcast studio and comment thread and group chat before the first half had even finished. And then Didier Deschamps walked into his final World Cup press conference as France's head coach and said the thing that nobody else in his position had been willing to say quite so precisely before. If I say something, I'll look like a sore loser because we lost, but I ask you the question, does the referee have the level required to officiate a semi-final? There is the penalty, but it's not just that. That's just on top of it all. I have nothing against tonight's referee, but ask yourselves that question. He didn't answer it. He left it in the room. He acknowledged France were second best. He gave Spain full credit. He conceded his team's attacking display was below what it should have been. He said Mbappé and Dembélé combined for 5 shot attempts worth barely a fraction of a goal. He did everything a genuinely accountable manager does when his team loses a match they were capable of winning. And then, within all of that honesty, he placed one question that will not go away. Was Ivan Barton good enough to be there? So what really happened at AT&T Stadium in Arlington on Tuesday? Let's go through both tracks simultaneously, the football and the controversy, because both are real, and the honest examination of both is what this story demands. Spain were the better team. That needs to be said first and said clearly, because the controversy around the penalty decision must not be allowed to steal credit from a performance of genuine quality. 6 clean sheets across 7 matches, a new World Cup record surpassing a tally previously shared by the Netherlands in 1974, Italy in 1990, Brazil in 1994, France in 1998, and Spain's own 2010 winning campaign. Unai Simón has been exceptional throughout. Lamine Yamal has been the tournament's most electrifying individual presence. Pedri and Fabián Ruiz have controlled midfields against the best opponents Europe could provide. Luis de la Fuente's Keem has beaten Morocco, Belgium, Austria, and France without ever looking genuinely threatened. They are deserving finalists, unambiguously. France, by contrast, arrived having scored 16 goals across 6 matches before Tuesday. Comparisons to the greatest French sides in tournament history had been proliferating since the group stage. Mbappé with 11 tournament contributions, Dembélé as Ballon d'Or winner playing with the freedom that only genuine squad depth provides. And then, against Spain, something went wrong that was partly Spain's excellence, partly France's technical failures, and partly, and this is where the honest examination becomes genuinely complicated, a 22nd minute decision that the manager who coached the most World Cup matches in history chose to put on record before leaving the tournament. Here is the specific incident, stated as precisely as the footage allows. Lucas Digne was tracking a Spanish cross that had dropped loose in front of the French goal. He controlled it with his chest. He turned 180 degrees. He attempted to play the ball upfield. From his blind side, coming at pace, Yamal arrived. Digne's kicking motion was already fully in progress before Yamal reached him. His foot struck the Spanish winger in the torso, contact in the penalty area, against an offensive player. Barton pointed immediately to the spot. Was it a penalty? By the letter of the law, contact, penalty area, offensive player, technically yes. But here's the detail that makes Deschamps' question something more than losing manager language. At the exact moment Digne's foot made contact, Yamal did not have possession of the ball. He was running toward a ball that had already been cleared. He was not being dispossessed. He was not being prevented from reaching a ball he could reasonably access. Digne was executing a clearance that was already in motion, and Yamal ran into that clearance from a position of not having the ball. Whether that constitutes the kind of foul that demands a penalty in a World Cup semifinal is genuinely debatable. What is not debatable is that Barton made the decision immediately, without hesitation, without VAR review, without the careful consideration that the stakes demanded. Here's the counterargument, because this analysis doesn't hand out accusations without examining the strongest possible case for the other side. Spain were dominating before the penalty. Their pressing was suffocating France's buildup. Mbappé was being tracked and neutralized by a defensive structure that had not conceded a goal in 6 consecutive matches. Even without the penalty, there is no compelling evidence France were heading toward the opener. Pedro Porro's second goal in the 58th minute came from sustained Spanish quality, not from a referee's error. Spain won the match. The penalty changed the tenor. It was not the entire story. And Giroud, the France substitute, came off the bench and committed a challenge on Rodri that multiple pitchside analysts described as reckless enough to warrant red. He received yellow. France benefited from a referee decision too. Deschamps acknowledged this directly in his press conference. He said there were some favorable calls as well. That acknowledgement is what separates his question from a simple accusation. He is not claiming the match was stolen. He is asking whether the official was at the level the occasion demanded. Those are different claims, and the distinction, stated carefully and on record by a man stepping down after 14 years in the role, carries more weight than any post-match outrage. Here is the shareable sentence, the one that matters beyond Arlington. A technology built to correct clear and obvious errors chose not to review a decision that changed the momentum of a World Cup semifinal, and the man who has coached more World Cup matches than any manager in the competition's history ended his last full press conference asking whether the person who made that decision was qualified to be there. Now here is why FIFA is in a position it cannot easily explain. The governing body introduced VAR specifically to address the kind of penalty decisions that previously generated the most controversy in football. A borderline spot kick in a World Cup semifinal is the clearest possible use case for the technology. It is exactly the kind of decision where slow-motion review changes the conversation from "was it or wasn't it" to "the footage shows what it shows." Barron made the call. VAR did not review it, and the question of why, of what threshold VAR applies when deciding whether to recommend a review of a penalty decision in a semifinal, has not been answered publicly by anyone at FIFA in the hour since the match ended. That silence is familiar. It is the same silence that followed the Mondi challenge in the Argentina-Algeria match, the same silence that followed Egypt's formal complaint, the same silence that followed Belgium's documented account of the Balogun process, the same silence that followed Switzerland's Yakin saying he didn't know the rule that eliminated his team existed. FIFA's institutional response to officiating controversy at this tournament has been consistent and singular. Nobody can question the integrity of our officials. The process worked as designed. Unfounded allegations have no place in our sport. That formula works once. It works twice. Deployed across 6, 7, 8 separate major officiating controversies in a single tournament, it begins to produce the opposite of its intended effect. It does not reassure. It accumulates. Think about what Deschamps' 26 matches represents, beyond the number. No manager in history has taken a nation this far, this consistently, for this long at a World Cup. Not Schoen, not Zagallo, not anyone. 14 years, 1 title in 2018, 3 consecutive semifinals, 4 consecutive quarterfinals. The man who has the deepest possible experience of what a World Cup demands, of its officiating environment, its pressure points, its institutional character, chose his final full press conference of his final tournament to ask a question about a referee. He did not do that carelessly. He said explicitly that he wanted to avoid looking like a sore loser. He acknowledged France were second best. He gave Spain everything they deserved. And then he asked anyway. What that combination produces, Spain's genuine quality, plus a borderline penalty that changed the game's momentum, plus the most experienced World Cup manager in history questioning the referee, is a story that FIFA cannot contain through press releases. The institution that said 500 million ticket requests, that said everyone is welcome, that said the process worked, that told critics to chill and relax, is now managing the post-match comments of a manager whose credibility on this specific subject is beyond any reasonable dispute. Mbappé said they didn't know how to hurt Spain. That is the honest player's assessment, and it is accurate. France were outplayed in this match. William Saliba was injured and limped off. The attacking combinations that had produced 16 goals in 6 matches simply did not arrive. Spain were better, that is true. And also, the referee made an immediate decision without VAR review on a contact that occurred when the Spanish player had no ball in the 22nd minute of a World Cup semifinal that changed the match before it had found its shape. Both things are true simultaneously. Spain deserved to win, and the question remains about whether the decision that put them ahead was the right call at the right moment made by the right official. Deschamps asked it. He left it open. He walked out of his final tournament having put it in the record. FIFA has not responded. Spain are in the World Cup final. They face either Argentina or England on the 19th of July. 6 clean sheets, a record tournament. Yamal, Oyarzabal, Simon, a team of genuine brilliance. Whatever happens from here, their place in the final was earned across 7 matches of quality that the controversy around one penalty decision cannot diminish. And France are out. Deschamps is stepping down. The longest World Cup managerial tenure in history ends with a question that will follow this tournament for years. Not because France should necessarily have won, but because the man who has seen everything this competition can produce sat at a microphone and said, "Ask yourselves whether the referee was good enough," and nobody from FIFA has yet answered. With Argentina facing England in the other semifinal, the Falklands Framework, the 1986 Shadow, the most talked about fixture bracket in the tournament, we are absolutely not done with this story. If you found this worth your time, a like helps more than you'd think. Subscribe if you enjoy thoughtful football coverage, and let me know your view in the comments. I read every one.